Go ahead and turn to Genesis chapter 30 with me, if you will. And we'll actually start in verse 25. We've already talked about the other verses last week, and it's like Heather said and like David said, it was a big soap opera. Whether it was a nighttime soap opera or a daytime soap opera. It was a big old hot mess, and for us reading that, it was something that blows our mind, because that's not something we would do now. I am kind of curious over there in that culture, in that Middle Eastern culture, if that's still a thing. I can't have children. Would you? And I just thought about this, right? I pulled it up and saying, if I can't have children, take so-and-so. They may not have slaves nowadays, but is there a... You got what I'm saying?
They don't mind the servants. They still have mind the servants. They want the money and they charge the interest rate where they can never pay it off.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're absolutely forever.
So, but I just wonder if that's still part of the culture, because, you know, they picked that up from other cultures around that wasn't following God. Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that. So I just kind of wonder if today that's still a thing. I can't have children, but we're going to have children through, as David said, my bond servant, or we're going to have children through, maybe they've got servants that they actually pay, you know? You know, I got Jay back there going, she's throat punching everybody, to use Heather's word, throat punch. So, but I just kind of wonder. So that's what happened last week as we studied God's word, and Miss Kathy wasn't here, but David said after Heather told her everything, she went home with an intensity and read verses 1 through 24 to see what was going on. So, but Rachel couldn't have children, so she gave her handmaiden, or her servant, to David as a concubine. It says wife, but basically it was a concubine. They had children, and through that, those were considered her children. But as y'all know, same issues with Hagar. It doesn't say it yet, but there's a connection there. I don't care how much. I can't remember which one it was, Zilpah or Bilhah. But there's a connection, Bilhah. There's a connection there when that woman has that child. There is a connection. I mean, you hear about that from women who've had babies and gave them up for the adoption. There's that connection that they've always missed something, and that's that child. So, and then you see Leah, she has the same problem. God has now stopped her from having children, even though, like me and David said, she'd already had 60 before that. She had a bunch in that last chapter before it wasn't 60, and then God stopped it up. And so she gave hers because it was almost like that's what it was. It was like a competition. And now we come to this part right here. In verses 25 through 30, I'm going to read them first. It says this. And it came to pass when Rachel had borne Joseph that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away that I may go unto my own place and to my own country. Basically saying, hey, let me go back home. It's time for me to go back home. I'm ready to go back home. I've more than paid, done my indentured servant, done whatever I needed to win my 2 wives and my kids. Let me go home. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. I went way above and beyond. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. And he said, appoint me thy wages, and I will give it to you. And he said unto him, thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude. And the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for my own house also? So we see here, Jacob's ready to go home. He's ready to go home. He's ready to go home and see his mom. He's ready to go home and see his dad. He's ready to go home. He's been sent away. It's been a long time. And he's ready to go home, and he's ready to start on his own. Because everything that he had was Laban's, basically. Because he was living at Laban's house. His family was living at Laban's house. He was serving Laban. He was ready to make a name for himself. And so he comes to Laban and he asks him. And here, Laban, you see 27 and 28, Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, stay with me, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. Laban wanted Jacob to stay. The Lord, he believed, had blessed him because of Jacob, and he did not want to lose that. Everything that he had gained, it was nothing that Laban did, and Laban knew that. All his gains was because God was blessing Jacob. So if that is happening, he's not going to want him to go. He doesn't want to lose that. He doesn't want to. He wants, basically when you get stuff, what do you want? More. And he wanted to continue to receive that. Did he care about Jacob? No. Now, it was his son-in-law, so I'm sure there was a love there, but greed. Did he care about God? No. Did he turn to God in all of that? No. All he saw was the material wealth that he was gaining from God's hand being on Jacob. And he didn't want him to go. He wanted him to stay because of what he was getting. But what amazes me is he saw how good God was, not only to Jacob, but to him. Through Jacob, he was good to him also. And not once did he turn to God that we've ever read in here. Not once did he make God the one he was going to serve. And we see that a lot of times with people today, don't we? They benefit from the goodness of God. They see where God's brought them through stuff. I know Steve and Ken even said it, I think, last week. He's always used that story of that one guy that was in the hospital that they thought was going to die. They prayed for him. God pulled him through it. He talked about how he was going to serve God. I've heard this story as long as me and Heather's been here. They thought they walked out the door and both of them looked and said, "We won't see this guy tomorrow." But in a nutshell, he's going to be gone. Did he start to serve God? No. He might have came to church one or two times from what I understand, because I know that was before word time, and I think it was before y'all's time too, right? And was gone. God had blessed him. God had brought him through something that he should have died on the table where he was at. He should have died in that hospital bed. And he chose it. The story I always heard, he went back playing softball and all that other stuff that he's played. Don't you remember that, David? Yeah. Ken don't ever say that anymore, but in a nutshell, or Steve would say he went back to doing what his Sunday thing was that he did. Maybe it was softball, maybe it was fishing, maybe it was this. But people miss. I don't understand it, but I also know we're as guilty as they are doing the same thing. Praising God and thanking God for the blessings that he's had in our life, that he's done in our life, that he's given us in our life. Most of the time with us, we're just quick to really go, well, God, where are you at in this situation? Yeah, thank you for getting me through foot surgery. Thank you for keeping me from dying in the hospital with blood clots. Thank you for getting me through cancer. Thank you for getting me through this. Thank you for getting me through heart issues. Thank you for getting me through whatever you may be going through. We may say it real quickly, but then we bring up, well, God, why aren't you getting me through this? You know I'm struggling at my job. You know I'm struggling to pay bills. You know I'm struggling to do this. You know I'm struggling to do... Where are you at in that? Well, if he was in that other stuff, he's going to be in that too. But we fail to see that. I'm looking at it the way Laban looked at it, but from a different perspective at the same time. And then sometimes people hang out with other people because, well, let's use church for example. Some people go to churches because they're big and they're nice, and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? So when I say that, but they go to them because They think that's where God's blessing. And they're not going to hear from God. They're going because they can get stuff from there. People will go to a big church and ask for money and ask for this, and then we never see them again. We've had that happen here. We've never seen them again. I believe as long as we do what God is leading us to do, if David and the deacons choose to give someone who comes in and asks for money in the church, I believe they're going to, whether we receive a blessing or not, but I believe God's going to bless us for being faithful, for doing what we're supposed to do, whether they come back or not. But too many times what we do as a small church is we say, well, them last people that came in, we never saw them again. We're not going to, we're here to help people. That doesn't mean we go out and pay all their bills. That's not what I mean. But we're here to help people. Because I really believe that's what Jesus would do. And he didn't care what happened afterwards. Because, and I hope I get this story right, Jesus had so many disciples outside of the 12. And you read in the Bible where they say they all left him. They all walked away. Trouble came, bad things came. They were out of there. Because they never saw who Jesus really was. And that's how we are sometimes. When things go crappy in our life, or in Christians' life, when things go crappy, when things go bad, the first person they walk away from is the one person that can help them. And that's Jesus. So Laban had his perspectives all messed up. He was banking on Jacob's God instead of making Jacob's God his God. And that's what we do a lot of times. We're going, I still got teenagers that are going to the same church, and it may not be where they want them to. Now, I believe most of them now, that's where God wants them. But they stayed there because that's where mom and daddy went. Instead of God's telling them, I want you to take your wings and fly. They need to drink my Red Bull. It gives them wings. I'm just kidding. But they need to go on and start because that's what God wants them to. That's the only church they've ever known. So we see Laban, he goes, well, I know you want to leave, but how much is it going to take to make you stay? I want to pay for your blessings. I want to pay to keep getting the blessings that I'm getting through you. How much is it going to take? Sorry, I'm going to take this off because it's not driving me nuts. They're talking back and forth now. How much is it going to take to get you to stay? And then Jacob did this. If you go, 29 through 30 says this. Well, let's go 29. He said unto him, thou knowest how, well, 28, he said, appoint me the wages and I will give it to you. Tell me how much you want and I will give it to you. And here's what Jacob said. He said unto him, thou knowest how I have served thee and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came. And it is now increased unto a multitude, and the Lord has blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for my own house? He's like, look, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to step out. I'm ready to go back home. I was only supposed to be here to come find a wife. Now I've got two. Well, now I've got four. I got two concubines. I've got more kids than I know what, that I have camels to take them home on. And then he didn't say all that. I'm just being funny, okay? And, really? Well, Heather's videoing me back there, but she's putting it on YouTube so you guys can see it if you're never here. Like Miss Kathy or Miss Jade or any of y'all get sick, she's got a YouTube channel. You can go up, punch her name in now, and then you've got the Sunday school lesson on there. So it makes it real easy. So unless there's a bunch of Heather Noblets on there, which I don't want to know because they ain't my wives. If there is a bunch of Heathers, I didn't go out and marry a whole lot of Heathers. Okay, so throat punches again from Jay. But he tells him, he says, yeah, you're right. Look how God has blessed you. You had nothing. You had nothing. And I don't think Jacob's being ugly. He's just saying what you had to what you had now. And he goes, now it's time for me to go. And then we see this. Point one was, because I know Brenda takes notes Jacob was ready to go home, and that was just 25 through 30. Then point 2, another deception from Laban. What was the first deception, or what was the first trickery or trick or whatever you would like to say it that Laban did to Jacob? Huh? Leah. He got him throwing a party. I still think he kind of got him a little bit under the liquor. Moved him, got him in the bedroom, sent Leah in there. They consummated the marriage. And I'm trying to think of a word, and I remember consummated. Isn't that the right word? Yes. And he wakes up the next morning, and who's laying on the pillow beside him? Leah. Laban goes, well, first off, we have to marry the oldest one first. The oldest one has to get out first. And then you can marry the young. And you work 7 more years, or he says, I'll work 7 more years for Rachel, because Rachel was the one that was on his heart. And that's what he did. So we see here that we'll see another deception. 31 through 36 says this. And he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. Jacob's smart. He says, and we're about to see what he did. I don't know if y'all have read ahead or not. He says, hey, I don't want any money. I don't want any pay. But here's this one thing that I would like to have happen. So verse 32, we'll pick up. I will pass through all the flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire, or be my wages. This is, if you want to give me a payment, here's the payment. Jacob was smart. He was looking at something that would turn around and produce for him more money. Now, the reason that Jacob wanted the spotted, the speckled, and the brown, do any of y'all know?
How they weren't perfect?
They weren't perfect. Most of the cattle was either black or white. And he said, here's what I'll do. Because Jacob knew God was going to bless him. Jacob has gotten to a point from what we remember him like, that he knows who's going to take care of him. And that's God. He knows, instead of saying, you're God, he says, look at my God who's blessed us. God has blessed us. And so forth, instead of saying, as he said to his father, well, your God's the one that got me to, when he was being deceptive, and got me to kill the animal and fix it up so quickly. Your God helped me through all that. Now it's his God. And Jacob knew that God would take care of him. And that's like us. Sometimes we need to remember, in whatever we're going through and whatever we're doing, that God is in control, and God is going to be with us, and God is going to watch over us, and God is going to take care of us. He never said life was going to be perfect. He never said, as you turn on TV preachers and they talk about prosperity, yes, he wants us to prosper. Somebody else said that last week. I think it was Ken. But yes, he wants us to prosper, but that doesn't mean we're going to be rich. We're not going to be this. If you listen to the Kenneth Copelands, and you listen to the Joel Osteens, and you listen to, yes, I'm calling out names, you listen to those ones who say how you prosper is you got more money than you know what to do with, they're wrong. Now, God can bless you that way, and he will bless you that way. You want to know my personal opinion? Did he bless them that way? No. I think they took the churches for the money, but that's me. God is going to take care of us. God is going to watch over us. God is going to be with us, but he never said that we wouldn't have hard times. He never said we wouldn't have trouble. He never said that somebody wouldn't have to work 3 jobs to take care of their family to make it through. He never said that they would deal with troubles and everything else that they were going through. But then at the same time, God can bless you also, and you start a new job that takes money away, but God blesses it where your other spouse is making up the difference. That's a blessing, because that happened in our family. We were fine with taking a pay cut, but God said, no, this is what I'm doing for y'all. God has blessed us, and God has taken care of us. Sad part is, sometimes we forget that. And we grumble and fuss when the government wants more money from us. So,
thanks for pointing that out.
but God is in control. And God will take care of that too. Through us paying for it, but God will take care of that too. I mean, he can make some money fall from the heavens. That's cool with me. But Jacob knew that God was in control and that God would take care of everything. And we need to remember that. These stories from the Bible apply to us. You're going through some tough stuff. You're going through some new stuff. You're wondering how you're going to pay the bill. You're wondering how you're going to take care of family that's sick. You're wondering how you're not in control. God's in control. Let him be in control and trust him. Even when the outcome doesn't look good for you. Would I have rather my dad been healed from cancer and healthy? Yes. But God is in control. And God's choice was, he knows me now. I'm taking him home. He's in a lot better place. Are you going to hurt Ryan? Yes. Is your family going to hurt? Yes. But your dad ain't hurt no more, and I'm in control, and I know what's best. It comes down to any one of us in here that what we're going through. It doesn't mean we're not going to go through pain. It does not mean that we're not going to hurt. It doesn't mean that we can't pray to God that he'll do the exact opposite of what he's doing now. But it means that he's in control and he knew better. I'm just going to throw this like Miss Brenda praying about Joyce. Joyce is getting worse. God's plan, and I'm not saying it is, okay? God's plan may be to take Joyce home, which is far better than her being here and not knowing anything that's going on. Just to make the family feel better by her being alive, never knowing what else is going on, and everybody wiping her rear end and everybody else doing this, and I don't mean that ugly. I'd say the same thing about my dad. It wouldn't have been good for my mom. When Chris died, Heather's brother-in-law died because his heart just shredded to pieces. God chose best to take him home instead of being there to cause stress on the family. Because I can tell you that woman right there would have been over with Michelle, helping her take care of her husband. That would have caused stress on our family. It would have caused stress on Michelle because she would have to be there 24/7 figuring out how to take care of somebody who couldn't take. God knew best. And a lot of times we don't see that, or we do see that, and we just say we don't want to see it. So God knows best, and Jacob was trusting God. 33. So shall my righteous answer, 32. I will pass through all the flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. I'll take the ones that nobody desires. I won't. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hiring or my wages before thy face, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. He's saying, hey, look, and when you come, because I'll take my cattle over here. And when you come and you walk through and you see any that are black and white, the prime, the best one, when you see them, and they're with mine, and it looks like I've been hiding them, you can consider them stolen. Because what he would do is, if he had them, I really believe what he's meaning is, if I have them as babies, I'll bring them to you. Hey, mine had a black one, I'm willing to sacrifice if my cattle does not bear speckled and brown and all that. If it's black and white, I'm going to bring them to you. So he's saying, hey, I'm going to take, me personally, I think he got the prettiest ones, because horses and cows and goats, I don't care for the solid colored ones. It's the ones that got the color in them that look good, camoed, you can't see them. And Laban said, behold, I would it might be according to thy word. Laban goes, you know what? That sounds good. I get all the ugly out of here. I get all the ones that are undesirable. I get all the ones that nobody wants. Hey, yeah, if you want them, you can have them. That sounds good to me. But here comes where Laban tricks him. Now, Wiersbe doesn't say that, but everything else I've read looks at it opposite of the way Wiersbe did. Which I don't know why I can see Wiersbe's point, but all the other ones and how I read it was exactly how I'm going to read it right now, and then I'll explain it. And if I'm wrong, then I'm going to say it both ways. And he removed that day the goats that were ring-streaked and spotted, and all she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hands of his son. Laban knew that if he gave them to him, that God was going to prosper. Laban's not stupid. It's like people who don't follow God, but they see God working, but they choose not to say it's God. Laban gave those to his son, the ones that were there before Jacob had a chance to get over and pick them. Now, in Wiersbe's book, he says that his sons take them over to Jacob to do it, but no, he takes them away because you see, later on, Jacob has to work to get more spotted and speckled and brown lamb, and so he gives them to his son. Why does he do that? It takes a little while for a cow or a goat to grow up and be productive, right? So he knew that bought him more time, that as his had those type of undesirable cattle, it takes time for them to grow. Yes, they would go to Jacob, but it would take time. The other ones are off with his sons. Oh, I've already gave them to him. I'm sorry. They've been given away already. I apologize. So 36 says, and he set 3 days' journey between him and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's animals. So there's going to be a little bit of different distance between Laban's cattle and Jacob's cattle, so they don't get mixed in together. But here's what I want you to see. So that's 2 is another deception. 3 is Jacob's wealth is increased. 37 through 43, and I'm just going to read them all, and I'll probably stop and talk between every one of them. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar and of hazel and chestnut tree, and peeled, or in that word peeled white streaks in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters and the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. So basically, the cattle's getting busy in a nutshell. And the flock conceived before the rods and brought forth cattle, ring streaked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs and set the faces of the flocks toward the ring streaked, and all the brown in the flocks of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not unto Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in, so the feebler were Laban's, and the strongers were Jacob's. And I'm going to stop right there. It had nothing to do with the rods and all that. It's kind of like, I think, in The Proposal. If you ever saw The Proposal, the movie Proposal with Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds. Got a great first name. But that when they were sitting there and she made him pretend that they were getting married so she didn't get sent back to Canada, Miss Betty White came in there and she was so excited because they thought they were engaged and all that. And she throws that baby blanket in there because he said it brings lots of babies. Jacob's doing something right now that some superstitious beliefs that he thought, but I really think he knew God was in control, but we all do it too. Oh, I'm not going to pick up that one because it's on tails and not heads on the ground. I'm not going to pick it up. It's those little stupid things that some people think, not me, man. I pick that thing up, put it in my pocket. So, but if you're my daughter and you see a dollar on the ground, you push your sister out of the way to grab it. I'm talking about when Abby was little Abby and Alexa was the older one. But we see here, God is blessing. When those cattle came in, and when they were drinking, and when they were doing their stuff, and they conceived, it would be spotted and speckled. And he'd put the stronger ones in and the weaker ones. And then I like verse 43. And the man increased, and that's Jacob, exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maid servants, and men servants, and camels, and donkeys. He increased. Y'all are waiting for a dirty word. I can say that word. It's in the Bible. I'm okay to say that word, but I didn't want David to cover his ears over there. I can say that word. But
they're two different animals.
Yeah, what, donkeys and, are they? Okay, then he had asses, okay? There we go, does that make y'all feel better? You're wrong? Okay. Kathy got me to cuss, so y'all know how maybe, I'm just kidding. But he increased because he walked with God. He was faithful. He could have bickered and fought with Laban, but he didn't. He let God's wisdom come through. We'd be a whole lot better if we let God's wisdom come through when we have disputes in our life. And that's where I'm going to stop. And we could be blessed by God and increase in God and increase in whatever God so desires us to increase in. If we would rely on his wisdom, let him have control, and let him lead. Dave, pray for us as we get over to the next